LBJ wanted to be president of the United States. Clearly, he ran for it in 1960 and lost to JFK. But nevertheless, because he was vice president and of a fallen president, he's now president of the United States. And so what he's going to do is he's going to get things done. You have to remember something about LBJ. He was a master of the Senate. He was the Democratic majority leader for many years. He knew how to work the Senate. He was a bear of a man. He was very tall. And the way he would get things done, he would get the Johnson treatment, where he would just lean in towards you. Kind of like how when you're taking an exam and there's your teacher's walking around the room and you can just feel that presence as they're walking around, right? That's LBJ. Except this, we're not talking about students. We're talking about senators, right? So he's going to basically go before Congress and basically say, let's continue. Let us continue what this fallen president wanted to do. So he's going to start passing much of the JFK agenda. For example, in 1964, he signs into law a tax cut, the Tax Reform Bill of 1964. It cuts taxes on the rich, but also on across the board. Now, what are taxes supposed to do? Particularly when it comes to cutting them, right? It's supposed to stimulate the economy because it puts money back in the hands of the people. It worked. The economy boomed. That same year, he's going to pass the most important Civil Rights Act legislation ever, in the Civil Rights Act of 1964. This outlawed discrimination in all public accommodations. No more separate but equal anywhere. It created the Office of Economic Opportunity, thus no discrimination on grounds of hiring and firing. When Johnson signs the act, he knows what he's doing. He knows that when he does that, he's giving basically the South to the Republicans. In fact, he turns to one of his aides and says, "Okay, I've just given the South to the Republican Party." And he did, because after this, the South overwhelmingly has voted Republican in terms of presidential elections ever since. This act is the culmination of the second reconstruction of civil rights. Johnson also gets in Congress to pass the Economic Opportunity Act. He wanted to wage a war on poverty. This had something like 10 separate measures aimed at fighting poverty in this country, and I'll just mention one: the Jobs Corps. The Jobs Corps was aimed at providing training for young men who did not have the skills to get a job. As long as you had good records, you could get training to become whatever you wanted in terms of a trade. So the federal government would come in and they would get involved in paying for your training. So these are government programs that are helping people escape poverty. So these are all the things that he is doing that's going to set up the backdrop for the election of 1964, when Johnson tries for his own term as President of the United States.